Israeli soldiers waited until he'd actually collected an injured man and then sent a tank shell into the ambulance. He was dead and another one was injured. While I was with the ambulances, we were picking up civilian casualties constantly. I went to one house where about 4 people had been injured. One was completely killed, his legs were mangled and he'd lost a foot. There was a 3-year-old child in the house that was injured. There were 2 men in their 30s who had severe internal injuries, and we had to put them all in the one ambulance. We had to squash them in, on top of each other, including the dead man, just to get them to some sort of place of safety. This is going on constantly. People are fleeing their houses in Jabalia if they feel they can go anywhere else, but the message from Israel has pretty much been nowhere is safe. So some people aren't leaving because they don't know where to go.
So obviously the crews are having difficulty keeping pace with the number of people who need their help. What happens at the hospital? We've heard that many of the hospitals are running short of supplies.
Well, this is the thing. Because Israel has had Gaza under siege for over 2 years, there wasn't enough of anything, even just for normal day-to-day life. Before this last conflict started, there was a shortage of flour, so people are queuing for bread, and it's getting to the point that if you're a poor family and bread is your staple diet, you're not getting enough food. The medicines in the hospitals are completely depleted. There are 29 respirators in Al Shifa Hospital, which is the best stocked. And, if someone comes in and they're the 30th person whose body isn't breathing for itself, even if it's just for a day, that's all they need, they're not going to get it, they're just going to die.
How is it helpful or hindering to have you and people like you from your organisation on board these ambulances when they're already under enormous pressure?
Well, the reason that we've press released that we're travelling with the ambulances on request is because we're hoping that Israel will pay attention to the fact that international observers are on board the ambulances. And as I said, medics have been targeted. So the medics, to some extent, feel safer with us there. We're also documenting what's going on. I mean, Israel has been putting this line that they're not targeting civilians. Well, all our evidence, all our documentation, all our photos, all our notes show the absolute opposite. And someone's got to be telling the world that. We don't actually know. We don't actually know if this targeting of medics will continue, but we certainly hope not, because it's against all laws, international law, Geneva Convention. The wounded must be allowed to be collected. Medical workers must not be targeted, and yet this is part of how Israel is approaching this invasion.
I've read a little bit of the blog that you've been writing on the web, and you say that pregnant women in particular are suffering from the stress of the situation, even if they're not injured.
Yeah, well, we took several last night. I mean, it's kind of disproportionate. They're all going into labour because just of the incredible levels of stress they're under. Having to leave their homes and walk in the streets carrying their belongings and their other children to get to somewhere they don't even know where they're going in many cases. It's bringing on labour early. And of course, in these conditions, with not enough supplies at the hospitals, and they're babies and they are at risk. I mean, there's nowhere where there isn't shelling. From the hospitals, in the hospitals the buildings are shaking. This is an appalling situation to be in labour under.
You write of extraordinary anxiety levels, which, given what you describe, is not surprising. Is there any let-up at any time of the day for these people?
No, there isn't. I mean, I've been, in the interviews I've been giving, I've been saying since Saturday morning at 11 o'clock when all this began, which is a week now, more than a week, I've lost track, there's not been an hour where there haven't been shells, no matter where you are in Gaza. And when people say to me, are you somewhere safe at the moment? My answer is always, there is nowhere safe right now. No one knows where to go. As I'm standing here, the Israeli drones are overhead. You don't know when they're going to drop rockets, and you don't know when the shells are going to be shot, and there is nowhere to be.
Sharon Locke from the International Solidarity Movement, we appreciate you taking time to talk to us. Thank you.